Hey guys, LMN here for another late night deck profile, and as you can see from the title, we are looking at the green-white Breach Meteor Control deck. I'm calling it Meteor Control at this point because it was honestly the first name I heard of for this deck, and it with with the fact that it's running white as its secondary color, it feels more of a control deck now, like a mid-range control. So I actually decided to just go with that. For those that don't know, this deck basically mainly requires stuff from the starter deck 4, I believe, or no, sorry, starter deck 2, the Wings of Advance, and a few, white cards specifically from GD01. And with those cards, you actually add a bunch of blockers, and you actually have ways to actually do more search power. Because initially, if you run just just green by itself or green blue, you do have access to two specific search cards, but at the same time, the deck felt kind of, I don't know, it's hard to describe. The green blue wing deck felt kind of inconsistent. I don't know, maybe if it was the cards I was running or just the builds I found, it just didn't really feel comfortable with me. Especially as those that have been watching my channel long enough, they know that very much a control player. So it just didn't really feel right playing it like in that kind of like mid range sense. Playing it as a control deck actually felt a lot better, especially late game. This deck actually can board wipe really easily, which is really, honestly, really crazy because the other two decks as you guys have seen, I've tried is specifically the red blue cyber new type deck, and I've tried the Xeon Rush deck, which kind of runs out of steam usually at some point, which I don't like. And then with the blue white blocker deck, I mean, it is consistent. It runs both search cards, but it's like it just feels very basic to me, and I didn't really like that. So I was trying to find a different deck that would work for me, and I feel like this deck actually works a lot for what I want to do in the game. So yeah, but anyway, let's actually get into the deck profile so I can actually show you what I mean about the deck because it has a lot of different keywords that other decks do not use currently or just don't ever use sometimes. So that way I can show you. So first off, we don't run any level ones. This deck is actually kind of weird because it doesn't need level ones. Mainly, it runs like twos, three, four, fives, and six, and then actually the highest level it has is a level 8. But you'll see which one I'm talking about once we get to it. So first off, for level 2s, we actually only run 2 Zowarts. This guy is still a very solid blocker, but we run other blockers that are just as good. But mainly it's just there as a good starting blocker for turn 1 or 2 specifically. We then also run Choo Choo's Demi Trainer. I actually saw a profile running this, and I was like, huh, what does this card do? And I looked at it. It's actually pretty cool. If you started off at turn 1, you can actually, or turn 2, if you manage to play this out and they can't get rid of it, you basically knock out their base, and at the same time when you attack you get to draw one and discard one. That's actually really strong. With the fact that the deck already needs search power, this is actually pretty solid to run for early game. So in testing, it actually felt very solid, and the fact that it's 3-1, if they try to kill it, you're like, okay, cool, but you're still taking 3 damage, so they have to trade, which is really cool. And then that's basically all for the level 2s. For level 3s, we, of course, this being the green-white wing deck, we of course run 4 of the Wing Gundam Bird mode. This is mainly to just start ramping up your resources, especially with the fact that when you deploy it, you get an extra EX resource. With how this deck needs like really high level cards as soon as possible, this is really helpful. So you have to run this at 4 copies. You cannot go down on this because it is really crucial for your strategy to set up into your really high level level 6s and beyond. So yeah, gotta run 4. Then, of course, as I mentioned, we have other blockers, and we run the Gundam Leafrith. I still don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, but he's a really solid blocker. He's only 2 cost, and the fact that he's 2-4, that's pretty chunky, especially against a lot of cards currently. They have to essentially spend 2 units just to take this guy out sometimes, especially if they're using weaker units like Xeon Rush, where they have like a Zaku 1 or a Zaku 2 or something. So it specifically requires them to have to use more resources just to take it out. So pretty strong. And then that's basically all for the level 3s. As you can see, we don't really run that many of each level. For level 4s, we only run one, and that's specifically the Gundam Death Scythe from the new set. I just like this one because he does repair one, but also the fact is that he's a really big level 4. He's a 4/3, and he's only a 2 cost for that, so that's actually pretty strong. So one copy feels solid. I've never really had a moment where I was like, okay, I really want a second one. He's just there to just kind of do some damage and leave. For level 5s, we go directly into the whites where we have Ailstrike. As you guys know, this guy's the GOAT in blue-white. The fact that he is a blocker, but when he's paired with a level 4 or higher pilot, it doesn't matter what kind of pilot. It just specifically says um, any pilot specifically when you pair it. You basically just get to choose one enemy unit with 4 or less HP. You get to return it to the owner's hand, so you get to bounce something, so pretty strong. And you set up a pretty big blocker that it can't get rid of. Then we have 2 Perfect Strikes because Perfect Strike not only is a blocker, but when deployed, you can choose one enemy with 1 HP and you get to bounce it to their hand. So if they have a really weakened unit, you just bounce it with it and you have another 4/4 blocker on the board. So pretty strong. And of course, the fact that it only costs 3 is pretty cool. Then for level 5, we only run one. This is mainly a substitute currently because I do not have another Death Scythe. So I'm opting to run one Shenlong. Shenlong actually in testing actually came up a few times. Surprisingly, even though he's a substitute for something, he's actually pretty good because he has Breach 4, but also the fact that he has another effect, which is when attacking, you get to choose one enemy unit with blocker and that is level 3 or lower, and you get to just destroy it. So if they have if you manage to exhaust all their blockers, you just go, okay, cool. I'm gonna pop that last blocker so you can't block me, and I swing for more damage. And not only that, with his pilot, he can actually make it so that he doesn't take any damage from any units that are lower than level 4, I believe. So that means anything that's weaker than it takes no battle damage. It's basically like a pseudo first strike. So in certain instances, this actually can help you remove their board enough, which is pretty cool. Hence why I actually really like it at 1. So it's like it comes up in very specific situations, but not every situation. So I have to run one copy currently because it's actually just a tech. But yeah. Then for level 6s, we start off with Wing Gundam because he's one of the main heavy hitters of the deck, especially once you equip Hero. He becomes a 7/6, so he's pretty big. But not only that is that he has Breach 5 and he can attack a unit that's not rested. So you get to do a lot of damage and get rid of a huge target that potential or a huge issue that you might be having. Maybe you're playing against blue-white and you see that they have an Ailstrike out. You can actually take out the Ailstrike without dying and at the same time Breach 5. The thing is with Breach though, specifically with Breach 5, if you manage to knock out their base if they don't have a base to damage, you automatically just do one damage worth of shields essentially. So pretty solid. So anything with Breach is always guaranteed to get that one shield damage, which I honestly really like. So we gotta run 4 of him because he's just really solid, and the fact that he pairs with Hero is very, very good. Then we run, as I mentioned, we are running 2 Death Scythes. Death Scythe is just really strong. He does good work, but also we run him specifically for his effect, which is when paired with a Operation Meteor pilot, you get to place 1 rested resource, so pretty good already. And then this unit gains first strike during the turn. So that means when you attack, he takes no battle damage as long as you manage to basically kill him. Because if not, you still take the damage. But if you manage to kill it, which you usually can, because with Duo you should be able to boost this up to I think about a 6/5. So you should be able to punch through regardless. So really strong, but mainly it's also the fact that he gives you a rested resource, which is really powerful, because then that helps you ramp up into your level 8 boss. So very crucial. Then for level 7, we only run one, and that is the boy himself, Freedom Gundam. Freedom Gundam's very strong still. The fact that he's a blocker, but he also pairs good with Akira, which we do run copies of. But during pair, once per turn, when you pair a pilot with this unit or one of your white units, you get to choose one enemy unit, and it gets -2 AP. So the fact that it's already doing that, but it's also a 4/6, so it's going to be a very annoying thing to get rid of that your opponent cannot deal with until they can get enough units to essentially out damage it. So having one copy is really solid. I know it kind of feels weird to just run one copy, but it's mainly as it's a supplement to the actual main boss of the deck, which is the level 8 Wing Zero. This thing is just bonkers. The fact that it has high maneuver by default is already really annoying. But the fact that on deploy you get to do 3 damage to all units, and I need to specify this because of the fact that it hits everything. It hits your units too. It doesn't just hit your opponent. It hits yours too. So when you drop this, make sure you have an empty board so that you can not take the damage. But basically, it deals 3 damage to all units that are level 5 or lower. So if you manage to have like units like, let's say you have Wing and Death Scythe, you should be fine. But if you have any blockers specifically, or Shenlong and below, essentially, you gotta make sure that they've already hit or done damage before you play this guy down. Usually, I use this guy as a board wipe, especially when I have nothing on board. Especially if they manage to knock out my blockers, this guy basically clutches it. And if you have Hero, you basically make this thing immediately attack, and it does damage. The fact that it's a 5/7. So with Hero, it's becoming a 7 like 8 or a 7/9. It's insane. Like it's super strong. Like this card, you have to run 2 copies of it. It is really powerful. I don't recommend 3. I feel like 2 is a really comfortable number currently. With 3, I think it might become a bit too clunky. So, but that's just how I feel after testing. Basically, these are all the units of the deck. For pilots, we of course, this being a green Operation Meteor deck, we are running 4 heroes because Hero, during the link, he gets AP +1 and HP +1, but already the fact that he's getting +2 +1 means you're basically giving it +3 +2, so pretty strong. So gotta run 4. Then, of course, this running white cards, especially the Strike Gundams. We run 3 Kira Yamatos because Kira Yamato is still one of the most broken pilots in the game, so why not? And then we run the 2 dual Maxwells. I only managed to pull 2 copies of this in my box, so I have to just run 2. If I had one more copy, I would honestly run it, but instead I'm running 1 copy of Chang Wufei. For those that don't know what Chang Wufei does, when he's equipped, he gives +2 +1, and then during your turn, while this unit has Breach, which it usually does, it can't receive battle damage from any enemy units with 3 or less AP. So anything that's super weak basically can't touch it, which is really cool. Yeah. Then for command cards, we specifically run 3. And that is, first off, we run 3 of First Contact because this helps us set up another EX resource. And not only that is that it has a burst effect, which also does a EX resource. So if they hit this in your shields, you get to have an extra resource, which potentially can contribute to summoning Wing Gundam Zero. And then when you play it for only a cost of 3, which is pretty cool, and then you can just keep setting, just ramping up until you have enough resources to do almost anything, basically. Then, of course, this being a half white deck, we have access to Overflowing Affection. It does suck that there's a trade-off where we have to discard a card, but honestly, it doesn't feel too bad because we get to draw 2 and basically unclutter our hand in the process, so pretty strong. Then, of course, the fact that now Operation Meteor has their own search card, the Path to Victory or Defeat. The fact that we get to dig 5 cards deep is really crucial because potentially this can help us get a pilot that we've been looking for. I actually use this a lot to look for Duo, especially because Duo is only at 2. But also the only downside to it, as you can see, is that it's a level 5. But usually by turn 5, you should have already set up maybe like a bird mode to set up more resources. So you should be able to do this pretty early game, honestly. Like I've been able to do this on like turn 3 or 4 because of my EX resources. So pretty cool. That's all the commands that we run. For bases, we run 2 of the St. Gabriel Institute because it helps us look at the top 2 cards of our deck and also essentially just stacking our deck with it, which is pretty cool. Then we run 2 of the Underground Desert base, mainly because of the fact that it's the only base currently that I know of that is a 0-6. So that means it has a pretty chunky defense. So sometimes units can't actually fully finish this off and they leave it at 1. So potentially that gives you another turn to set up a new base, which is pretty cool. Then we run 1 Archangel because, as you see, we are running Strike, and that helps us unsuspend it. So, or sorry, not unsuspend it. Sorry, untap it or unrest it. So, yeah, pretty strong. Like this deck is pretty crazy. Like I just love how it works. Originally, I was kind of not really sold on this, but after finally testing it, it feels really good. Like honestly, it feels very solid of a deck. Um, Mainly it's because I finally have the cards to actually build it. The previous green blue version, as I mentioned before, felt very inconsistent. So switching over to green white actually it actually feels much better. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the units or just the fact that you just have more removal power and just more like defensive power. It helps kind of like keep you alive long enough compared to green blue where it feels more like kind of like you're trying to rush them down sometimes. So, yeah. But yeah, as usual, in all my videos, I always say that this is a template that you guys can work off of, which I highly recommend just using like the base stuff to just go with it. You can always change out different stuff. I know some builds run different stuff, like they don't run Freedom Gundam. I think they just opt to just run just the Wing Gundam Zero, or they don't do Freedom. I think they use Justice. I'm not sure. It's really like I haven't seen every single build or every variant of this deck, but I know that the basics is just Wing Gundam, Death Scythe, or just Death Scythe spam. I know that if you wanted to go more with the green side, you can always take out these and replace it with Duo's Space Leo, essentially, which does let you attack unrested units that are level 2 or lower, which is pretty cool because you can actually attack their attacking units, and if they don't have a blocker, you can actually take those out pretty easily. There's also there's like other weirder versions that run run more of the Shenlong to do more breaching, which is also really cool. I like that idea as well. But yeah, you can just go with how you want with this deck. I just wanted to put it out a template that you guys can go off of and just work with currently. Um, but yeah, no, deck is pretty great. Highly recommend trying it out. And as usual, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.